Hey, what's up you guys? Paul here. So, as you probably guessed by the title of this video, a ban list is definitely coming. It is on the way, and there are a lot of reasons to believe that, so it's like pretty much confirmed, but more importantly, we have to wonder, what is it going to be? So first of all, why do I think there's a ban list coming? I mean, everybody kind of thinks this at this point, but there are like two great reasons. The first is that the OCG just recently got an announcement of its April 1st ban list, which, sounds like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I mean, they've been getting a couple of ban lists since we got our last one in like August or something of last year. So you're like, oh, well, what's it matter? But the second reason that kind of compounds with the first is that a lot of Duelist Saga leaks have been coming out. We've gotten confirmation that, Rescue Cat and Bryonic and other cards like that are going to be in this, and they're going to have their erratas that we found out about a few months ago. So this means that if Konami is going to be dropping a new set at the end of the month and it's going to have errated versions of banned cards, then it makes perfect sense that we're going to have to get a ban list to put those cards back, legal. Maybe it's say 1 or 2 or 3, probably 1. Well, with a ban list comes a lot of fun other things. As we know, the OCG's ban list wasn't just saying, okay, here, have like Bryonic and Rescue Cat and the Imperial Order back. It was also, a big nerf to a couple of decks that were problematic over there. And there are some people who think that, that very same list might be what we get or something quite similar. And there's really no telling. So what this isn't going to be is a ban list predictions video. This is kind of more of a discussion, a conversation, because I kind of want to just talk about it. I don't think that there's really a great way to do any predictions right now. Too much is going on, but I think that there's a lot to unpack and discuss. And then at the end of the video, of course, I want to hear what you guys think, what your predictions themselves are, and kind of your rationale for those. So just, to really start things off, I would say that it's a trying time in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a sense, because we've wanted a ban list for a while. I mean, people were wanting it back in like November, and we thought that we would get one. We thought we'd go in like November, it didn't come. December, it didn't come. January, it didn't come. And then like, Raging Tempest came out, and we're like, what? Like, they're still on a ban list? What? And, throughout that time, it's interesting because, we've gone through what feels like 2 or 3 different formats, right? We started off with like Burning Abyss and Cosmos and stuff getting hit. But even, early in that format, they were still kind of being used. People were still using Burning Abyss. People were still using Cosmo variants and like kind of just random Performer Palace variants. And, for the first couple of weeks, that's sort of what it was. Then like Blue Eyes and Metal Foes sort of came along, and that was the meta. And, now we've seen a bit of a power creep where, Blue Eyes isn't really considered relevant anymore. Metal Foes somewhat still, it's kind of maintained. Then we can't forget like Paleozoics. They also came out, and they've still been doing really well. And what else? ABCs, the ABC structure deck or Kaiba structure deck came out and released ABCs, and they were a huge threat. They were a huge problem. They crept out a lot of older stuff, and now you don't really see them as much either. And then like Mermails got kind of caught up in the mix around there too. And now we've got like, Zodiacs and Wind Witches and Invoked. And it's kind of cool though, because what you notice through all of this is that people's perceptions of what is broken have changed and are not the same as what they were in, let's say, like October or November. And I think that's a good thing. I think it goes to show an important lesson about ban lists, and that's that what you feel is broken and just is killing the game and needs to, go immediately, needs to get limited, needs to get banned, won't be broken forever. The same cards people were screaming for bans for earlier are just not really factors anymore. I think a great example is Dante. A lot of people wanted Dante to be limited. When it wasn't limited, people were like, what? Like Burning Abyss was not hit hard enough. Why was it like only, Beatrice or whatever it was? I don't even remember, it's been so long. Why was it only this? This isn't fair. Like, why hasn't Dante been limited yet? This card is stupid and dumb. And, now who cares? Like Dante's cheap. No one's playing Burning Abyss. Nobody is really viewing it as a huge threat anymore. And, that applies to a lot of things. There were times when people wanted, like, Blue Eyes to get, nerfed. Like, limit, White Stone of Ancients, limit Sage. They're just dumb. And now, it's just completely off the table. I don't even hear people complaining as much about ABCs anymore. And, that was something that, people were saying, like, this is going to completely just, trample over the game. This deck makes everything else obsolete. It's just, But then, like, here we are, and, it's fine. And so I think that that kind of means it's hard to predict this ban list because there are cards that people have thought they wanted to get hit and like they just aren't threats anymore. Do you remember the time when people were talking about card of demise and like saying it just needs to go, it's broken? But like here we are now, and you know, nobody really seems to care about card demise. I mean, even Pot of Desires, at first people were saying like, you know, at first people didn't think it was worth playing. Then they were like, okay, this is broken. It's what's ruining Yu-Gi-Oh! Now no one's talking about it. Why? Because, I mean, A, I guess you could say we've adapted, and B, it's not used in Zodiac variants. Nobody really wants to risk, you know, milling off like rat peers and stuff. And so it's kind of cool to see how these cards that people once thought were so obnoxiously broken are slowly but steadily not quite as relevant. Twin Twisters is a good example. Even Solemn Strike, which I'll admit, like, it's still, people still think that card's really strong and maybe should get hit, but like, it's not, I don't hear as many complaints about it. Even Terror Top, which admittedly, like, there's still a lot of complaints about Terror Top, but I feel like they aren't as strong as they were actually just a few months ago. So with all that said, it's like, what will get hit in this list? It's really hard to say. You know, will we get hits on Burning Abyss and Cosmos? Nah, of course not. But a few months ago, people might have told you that. Will Blue Eyes and Metal Foes get hit? I don't think Blue Eyes will for sure. Metal Foes, like, maybe. I mean, like, Kieran's still Kieran, but you don't hear people complaining about it as much. You know, ABCs, a long time ago, people were saying, like, limit, you know, Union Hanger, limit Terraforming, or limit Dragon Buster, limit something. And nowadays, it might just get, like, a slap on the wrist, if that, you know, like, I think the OCG dealt with it in some ban list, but I mean, like, maybe here it'll just be a slap in the wrist because no one really cares about it. Mermails, possibly, you know, and then Zodiacs are so new, so it's like, are they going to get hit? Is that something that Konami would hit this early in its lifespan? The OCG certainly did, but they've also had Zodiacs for longer. So, you know, who's to say? And then we've got the really big elephant in the room of link summoning, which, you know, it's obviously, it's divided the community quite a bit, but people are coming to terms with it and beginning to embrace it, finding combos. You know, there's obviously been the whole Gofu, Blackwing Gofu hype, and some other things like that. And so it kind of makes you think like, is this ban list, because let's assume it's coming out on April 1st. Like, let's assume they'll announce it maybe the last week of March and it becomes legal for us on April 1st, which would, you know, make sense, right? Like, sometime around that would be when it would be legal, because Duelist Saga comes out on like the 30th, 31st. And so anyway, point being, is, you know, is this going to be a ban list that is made in anticipation of link summoning? Because there's really no reason it has to be. We won't be getting link summoning until like July 20th or 21st in a structure deck. And I'm not sure the exact date of like Nationals, but I mean, that sounds like something that comes right after Nationals, like probably the weekend right after Nationals is when that new starter deck will come out and introduce the link mechanics, which means that if things kind of go as Yu-Gi-Oh tends to go, then maybe we'll just get another ban list like right after Nationals, because that's usually kind of how it goes. Nationals is crazy, and then we get a ban list. And I think that sounds more likely. It sounds more likely that we would get a ban list there, and then so this ban list would be assuming that like links don't exist. So maybe we won't see something like Gofu get limited, or, you know, anything like that. So maybe it'll just be a ban list where it just kind of focuses on the current day meta, and I would prefer that. You know, I don't really care to see a card like Blackwing Gofu get limited if it doesn't have to yet. So that's fine by me. I say let it stick around for a bit, but you know, and then there's other cards we have to talk about too. Like Dimensional Barrier. That's an interesting one, right? Totally awesome. Cards that people have kind of been, you know, had a little bit of a bone to pick with. So let's start with Totally Awesome, right? For a long time, people were like, do we limit Bahamut Shark? Do we limit Totally Awesome? Or do we like ban Bahamut Shark or whatever? How do we deal with this card? People aren't talking about it quite as much now, but I mean, Paleozoics are still doing pretty well. Is Totally Awesome going to get hit? Does it need to get hit when people are now complaining about Zodiacs more? Like, what's the deal with that? Dimensional Barrier is a big one. I am of the mindset that maybe Dimensional Barrier should get limited. It can feel like a card that sort of invalidates a lot of decks, a lot of strategies, and it's not as easy to power creep it out. So, I mean, you know, maybe I could see that like going to 1 or something. Solemn Strike, I've heard people say that they want it gone. Not so sure. There's really no indication. And then there's the whole, like, how will these new cards that are getting errated affect the format. Because why would, you know, like, it is just kind of my like one line of thought. Why would Konami bring these cards back? Like I'm talking about, you know, Rescue Cat, Brionic, Imperial Order, let's say Future Fusion as well. Why would they bring these cards back and then limit and ban a bunch of other stuff? I feel like that'd be maybe like too much at one time. Maybe they just want to bring these old cards back and then keep the rest of the format relatively the same, see how these cards mesh in, see what they can do later. And I think it would still make sense. I mean, you know, we've still got Nationals to you know, coming up, and Zodiacs don't even have like all their own support. I don't think Zodiacs will get hit. I don't think Wind Witches will get hit. I don't think Invoked will get hit. So it's a tough call. I think that I'm really excited. Oh, I don't think that I'm excited. I am excited that we're getting a ban list. I want to see what it is. I want to see when we get it. I'm excited just to the thought of finally a new format to keep this game from getting stale. But there's just no telling. So that's what I want you guys to tell me. Let me know down in the comments. What kind of ban list is this going to be? I'm not just talking like, what are the, you know, like, do you want Stratos back? Like, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. I mean, that's fine. You can talk about that too. But I'm really wondering, like, is this going to be a ban list in anticipation of Link summoning? Or is it going to be a ban list that kind of just pretends Link summoning is not a thing yet? Is it going to be a ban list that deals with problems from, like, last year? Like, are we going to still be focusing on ABCs and, like, Metal Foes and Totally Awesome? Or are we going to be, you know, like, focusing on Zodiacs and, you know, maybe like that grass looks greener? So what's the whole deal with that? I want to know what you guys think. Like I said, it's almost certain that we're going to be getting one. The real question is, you know, what's it going to be? So let me know down in the comments. I am very interested in reading your answers and just sparking the conversation. Anywho though, be sure to check me out on social media. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. I've also got a Discord server that you can join. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you love the video, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! And I will catch you guys in the next video. So without further ado, I end my turn.